What's up everyone, Art with Overtake, and if you are a Subaru owner, you probably know what this is. It's a hella horn. Now, this is a really popular piece for Subaru owners to mount on their cars, and companies like Overtake make the pieces that are necessary for it. So the hella horn bracket and the plug-and-play wiring. In this video, we're gonna put one of these into our 2019 WRX and show you an install start to finish. By the end of it, we're gonna have some brand new, much louder than factory horns on this car. What you're gonna notice is two fitments of plug-and-play harnesses, an 02 to 14 and a 15 through 21 and BRZ. That's what we're gonna be putting on our car. You'll also notice the universal horn bracket. This is gonna fit all of those makes and models in that year range, so it's gonna make for a really easy install. Speaking of the install, here are the tools you're gonna need. A 10 mil wrench, you're gonna need a 13 mil for the back of the hella horns themselves, a flathead screwdriver, and if you have a heat gun handy, that would help. You could also use a lighter for the heat shrink portion. So what we're gonna do is grab all the stuff, walk over to our car, pull the bumper off first, and then start the install. The first step in this install is going to be taking the Overtake license plate relocation kit off. I assume you guys have one as well. Pull this off, and the next step is getting the bumper off. Most of the action is going to be right up top. There's a number of 10 mil bolts, a bunch of plastic clips, and then the same thing underneath. So you're going to get a time lapse of me doing that. It should be pretty self-explanatory. Once this is off, I'll go through a step-by-step on how to install the bracket, the wiring, and the horns. Bumper came off pretty easy for us. The one thing to mention is if you have fog lights, you're gonna need to disconnect those before you yank the whole thing off. Once you get it off, you're gonna notice the first of two horns right in the center. This one we're fully gonna ditch and not use this wiring harness. The one that we need to use is on the passenger side of the car. Let's go over there and check it out. Here's that other horn. We are also gonna take this out of the system, but we will need to reuse the connector here. This is what's gonna plug directly into the Overtake hella horn harness. Now this is a 2019 WRX. If you have a 15 through 17, this harness is actually gonna be in the middle next to that first horn I showed you. If you have the 18 through 21 like this one, you're gonna need to take this and just reroute it a little bit closer to the center. One other socket you're gonna need is a 12 mil to take off the two horns. Pretty easy, and then you can ditch these, you won't need them. Back the center horn, we're gonna need to take this off as well. That's a 12 mil, and then just pull the wiring harness. We are not gonna be using that for anything, so you can tuck it away. With the horn gone, we also took out the bolt and fastener that was in the way. Now we can grab the Overtake hella horn bracket, and really we just need to find the orientation that this fits properly in. Because this is a universal piece from 02 to 21, it does fit in a couple of ways depending on the chassis. For the VA, we can see that it slots just like that, and then we're gonna put the supplied bolts in here to tighten it up. Now that you know the proper orientation on your chassis, you can choose to install the horns before or after you put the bracket in. I'm gonna do it before. It makes it a little bit easier to tighten these up. You notice that there's a lot of slotting on the bracket. That way you can choose where you're gonna put these. I usually lean towards the middle of the smaller one, and I usually rotate the horn where the ends are gonna be at the bottom of the bracket. Once you're there, you can tighten it up. Next up, I'm gonna grab the Overtake harness itself, route the connector point through here, and then this is plug and play, so it's gonna click right in. What we've noticed on some of the OEM connectors is they can be a little bit loose depending on what generation or chassis of car you have. So we do provide a heat shrink piece. You can put that on there, and if you have a heat gun like this, just give it a little extra security. Otherwise, if you hear the click and it's all connected, this is good enough too. One of the last steps is to connect the harness to the horns. This is really easy. There is no polarity on these, so you're just going to connect one of the longer and one of the shorter wires to each horn. You'll know you did this wrong if you honk the horn and nothing happens. So once you plug these in, test it out, and you should be able to hear a very loud horn. We're theoretically done with the install, but before we throw the bumper off, you got to make sure to test these to make sure that you didn't switch the wires, that the connector is connected. So I'm going to hop in, honk it, we'll see if I did it right.
Oh my God!
The last thing I want to do is answer a question that I know you're going to have. What did these sound like compared to the factory horns? So we're going to hit you with a little before and after. Well, there you have it. The horns are all installed. It took about 40 minutes or so, so a decently quick install. You guys can definitely do it at home. And a lot of people have. This is one of the most popular first installs, not only because it looks aesthetically pleasing, but it gets rid of the terrible OEM horns. Everyone hates those. So it's kind of a great combo just to upgrade into right away. If you guys are interested in picking up the OVERTAKE Horn bracket or plug and play wiring harness, just click the link in the description. And if you want to check out some more content, we're going to be getting right back to work on this thing and installing the 3-port boost controller, which we'll put a link for right up here.